Trice.
Uplifting. Whoa, whoa. Bring it together, y'all. Yeah. Uplifting.
Welcome to another episode of Uplifting Communities television talk show. This show is to provide information and real strategies for successful living. I'm Terry A. O'Neill.
I'm John L. Brown.
And I'm T.D. Trice. Welcome to today's program. Today on Uplifting Communities, we're going to talk about some topics that we haven't had an opportunity to talk about before on Uplifting Communities because we usually have a guest here. But because we don't have a guest, we decided that we would just have a conversation. And hopefully some of the information that we talk about today will be of interest to you, that will resonate with you on some level. And you'll end up visiting our Uplifting Communities Facebook page and like us.
Yes.
Okay. And so with that, we had a discussion earlier today about what was going on in the world and in the country. For example, we were talking about the debates. There was a couple of Democratic presidential debates earlier this week, and those candidates touched on a number of different subjects. They touched on things like homelessness and immigration, trade, and also drug use and big pharma and those kind of things. And we know that some of these topics are touchy for people, but we also know that they need to be discussed. We need, as people, as voting citizens, as people who care about our country, we need to have the discussion. Yes. We need to talk about these things. And so with that, both of you had a chance to see a little bit of the debates, maybe not the whole thing. And they talked about, one of the things they talked about was homelessness.
Right.
And how something like that could be addressed.
You know, you're right, TD. Matter of fact, it was very interesting, what they was talking about. But this just me, as a citizen of the United States, what I would like to see more of when they debate, is talk about subjects. What are you going to do to fix this problem? Because I didn't get, they talked about homelessness, and which is a big problem, not only here in Sacramento, but throughout the United States. Mm-hmm. What are you going to do to fix the problem? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What strategies are you going to take? What you need, do you need our help? What type of help do you need from the American citizens to fix these problems? Mm-hmm. You're talking, but you're not really giving us this. Our job.
I think people get caught up, especially when that time comes around. Voting comes around. It's so much rhetoric that it's discouraging because I think the American people believe that it's just talk. It's just to push their agenda. Yeah, thank you.
But
and
why?
Because they want to win.
Why would the American people think that is just talk?
Because if you drive down Stockton Boulevard, you're going to see a camp of people with tents pitched up, with carts, grocery store carts, with baby carts full of nothing, with no baby in them, but a whole bunch of stuff.
Right.
And that. And it's not just Stockton Boulevard, it's different little spots.
Right.
And the thing is, you when you drive by these places, one part of you is desensitized to it, and then another part of you is like, man, what are they going to do about this? But it seems to be talk.
It seems to be rhetoric. And the sad part about it is you look at the statistics and it tells you In California, the homeless rate has
What,
increased by
19%?
17%.
Was it?
In the last 2 years?
Yeah.
The last 2 years. So yeah, what are they doing? I know they discussed it during the debates. Providing housing was one of the main solutions that they've talked about. More housing. There is a cathedral, I want to say, in San Francisco that opens up. I mean, so many people are, organizations, they do help. They do try to help like we do with our fundraisers and things like that, and drives for the homeless. One cathedral in San Francisco, they open up, and they've been doing it for years. They open up their doors of the church, and homeless people come and they sleep in the pews of the church, and they've been doing that for over, I think, 2 decades now. But we really need some serious solutions, and because we don't, like you said, we don't see change happening for the better.
Right.
It's a bunch of talk. It's a bunch of rhetoric, just like the reparations discussion.
Here you go.
Right?
right.
Go.
Right?
Yeah. Well,
Right.
the question, and I'm so glad you brought that reparation up, is because I'm only one of the few feel as though, in some parts of our reparation that we did receive, like number one was the quota system back in the 60s. It was affirmative action.
What was a quota?
Well, the quota
I've heard
system,
of it, but what was it?
The quota system was like, for every, it was founded on this model. For every, let's say, 10 white folks you hire, well, you got to hire 1 black. Okay. So, or either,
It sounds like the predecessor to
Right.
affirmative action.
Right.
Okay.
And then from the quota system, here come affirmative action.
Right.
But affirmative action, what I was taught about it was set up to help black folks. So that way we
Originally.
So that way we can get halfway on the equal playing field, because after slavery we
Right.
didn't get that.
Yeah.
Right.
It's supposed to help.
It was supposed to help.
Right.
And it did help.
Discrimination.
But here's my
in the
thinking.
workplace.
Right. And it did help. But here's my thinking. The African Americans that did get these high paying jobs doing affirmative action and the quota system, they got good positions and they got good high paying jobs. A lot of them got in the White House. A lot of them got to be senators. A lot of them got to be governors. And that was through affirmative action, because you got to remember, at one time they wouldn't let black people go to no prestige college.
How can you determine? How do you know that? How can you?
Well.
I mean, because couldn't it be
Well,
because?
I lived the era. That's
no,
how
I understand.
know.
I understand that.
Okay.
But I'm saying,
I lived the era. When you live the era, you know. And I know for a fact, because like I can remember the times of good jobs when I came back from Vietnam. That was back in the early 70s. I couldn't get that.
Right.
Okay. But I got through a lot of programs because of affirmative action. I went through a lot of programs, and that's how I got in. But here was the deal. This is the way I think. There's no right and wrong to this. That's just the way old John Brown think.
Okay.
Those that did make it to the top, I think it was set up for them to bring the rest of the people with them. You get me what I'm saying? Or bring
some would
'em.
argue that when it comes to higher positions, yes, I agree with you in that it did help many people. Affirmative action did, until of course people started crying reverse racism. But the bottom line is it's not just, it's not equal, it's not even close to balanced.
Right.
But some will argue that they got in their positions based on their credentials and all the hard work and effort that they put into, their degrees, the dedication in their job, in their field of work. And so, that they should have received anyway. They should have got the job based on their experience and their credentials. I I'm just saying. Some people will argue that in certain positions, especially the higher up positions.
Well, I'm sorry to say, but you understand, those that had their PhDs and their masters and their BAs, affirmative action helped them get to where they got. Some of them. Now, I'm not saying all.
Not all of them.
Yeah.
Sure.
Not all.
And I
But,
could agree with
say,
that.
I
Some of
would
them.
say the majority of them. You know,
Well,
that's just me.
I think it. I
You
think
know?
it definitely has to stay in place, off into infinity, ad infinitum, because the assumption of capitalism as an economy is that everyone is doing things honestly. Everyone is performing their role in the economy on the up and up.
Right.
But then you have stories like what came out earlier this year, where the parents were paying to get their kids into college and had a complete scam set up
Right.
so that the student would be in college, and no one was the wiser.
Right.
You know, and that's why you have to keep affirmative action in place,
Well, affirmative
is because
action is
people
over.
within the economy, there's still people doing crooked stuff and
Right.
sliding people through the
Right.
system.
Right.
And that's why you have to keep it in place, because
Right.
people are going to do what people do
and,
to get
you
by.
know, and you know one thing, you're right. You're 100% right. You know, that hurt a lot of people. You know, especially African Americans and women's. You know, when affirmative action, you know, when they got rid of it, it hurt a lot of people.
It hurt a lot of people.
But you know, to finish and tell you, like for me, I think that was part of our reparation. But they saw that it didn't work. And the reason why it didn't work is because, to be honest with you, we need money in our community. You know?
So, what is your idea of so you think we
heard
should
that.
receive reparations? So, in what kind, what form?
Well, you know, like I think that they should put so much money, allocate so much money for African Americans, descendants of the African slaves, for education, for home ownership. You know, I'm not saying give everybody $25,000 and say, now go out and party, you know, because that'll be broke till tomorrow. But I think
That's true.
You know,
That's right. That's right.
You know,
That
but
money's
I-
going to get
but-
spent like.
That's right. But I do think that, you know, they should get some type of monies, you know, but
It's part of a larger package.
Right, part of the package.
Yeah.
But I think it should be more for like maybe health care, you know, just a pool of money. And it would be for the African American slaves, you know, descendants of the African American
They
slaves.
believe that it would set us back $17 trillion.
Well, so what?
So what?
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting that you mentioned trillion, because people have difficulty grasping billion. You know, we've thrown these dollar figures out there so much that people have become desensitized to when they hear million and they hear billion and they hear trillion. Okay, if you have, there's only approximately 350 million people in the United States. That's
Right.
all.
Right.
That's really not a lot of people when you think about, when you compare numbers of people to dollars.
Yeah, actually, I think it's
Okay.
about 318 million.
There you go.
40 million
So it's
blacks.
even less than the estimate I
Right.
just threw out. So let's just give it a round figure of 300 million. Okay. Well, $1 billion is 3 times that. Just $1 billion.
Yeah.
Okay. You could give each person
$1.
$1, right? But then if you had 300 million, you can give each person $1. Okay, but if you had $1 billion, you could give each person considerably more.
Right.
And if you had $1 trillion, you can give each person
Even more.
1,000 times that.
Right.
Okay, so $1 trillion is a lot. It's so much money you can't even see it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So there's enough money, but there's a lot of greed.
Right.
You know, and that's what one of the problems we're dealing with, in my opinion, is there's a lot of greed of people. There's a lot of people arguing over scraps. For example, the defense budget gets a huge chunk of our money. You know, and I'm all for defending the United States of America.
Oh yeah.
I'm all for it, but it gets a lot of our budget, of our overall budget, our $1 trillion plus budget. Okay, but social services gets hardly nothing. I mean, it's literally crumbs that this country spends on social issues, social services, mental health, having a home.
Homelessness. Yeah.
You know, health care. Those things take up a very small percentage of our overall budget. There is the money there.
It's there. It's there.
But there's just no desire to spend the money on people.
And no, I don't think it's that. You know, to be honest with you, I don't think it's that. I think that we just don't have the right representation for the poor communities. You know,
But then the poor communities don't participate
and especially
like they should. Is that
right.
true?
That's right. That's right.
They don't participate like they should. So you're saying the representation, but the people that get chosen is not by the people, because the poor people are not participating.
Right. But you see, this is where we come in. Uplifting Communities Talk Show is where we come in, when we can go into a community and say, hey, young man or young brother or young whatever you want to call them, and sisters, they have a city councilor meeting. Once you come, get involved, let them know what's going on into their community. The average, especially young black man, never been to a city councilor meeting. The average never been to the state capitol. They don't know that there's a memorial, a Vietnam Women's Memorial is built right up there in the back of the state capitol. You know, so.
But that comes with having having people who care to share that information. And there's doesn't seem to be a lot of people who even care to share that information. And if you're not told that something exists, then you don't know it exists.
Right.
From my perspective, I will say that one of the major issues regarding the reparations discussion is looking at, or them coming to a determination of what the contributing factors are, the impact that slavery had on Black Americans. And because it's so extensive, they're struggling to really come up with, because there's so many contributing factors, you know, they're struggling to determine how. There are many. We can look at healthcare, mental health, you know, education, and all the other injustices, the systemic racism that we have. All this stuff in the government, right? So there's so many contributing factors that how do they address all of them at once?
Right. And then put a reward system on those things.
Exactly, and that's what I see.
A viable reward system.
Right.
Yeah, that is the struggle.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the struggle within the struggle.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's deep. It's much deeper. It's not anything surface that we can just say,
Well-
okay, this is no single solution for the
Right.
problem.
Right.
Reparations come in many different forms, more than
Right.
just monetary. In fact, like you mentioned, monetary, giving people money, that's not going to help our problem. Our problem is deeply rooted in our history and our past.
Right.
And it's passed down from generation to generation. And they have to go deep. Like, is it even possible? I think they wonder,
Right.
if it's even possible.
But you just said that money is not going to help.
No, I'm
and
talking
I
about
say-
like
Alone.
Like
Money.
giving-
Yeah, money alone is not going to help.
Right.
Oh, no, definitely. Because we definitely going to need programs out there to, like you say, to help these people, with mental health problems
Mm-hmm.
and things. Because I think me myself,
And education.
I think some of our problems in the African American communities are rooted, and it's because of slavery. And that's just my opinion. I'm not a doctor, everybody.
Okay.
Well, we touched on education a little bit. Let's talk about that.
Okay.
Let's kind of
Yeah.
touch on what readiness in the school systems and how this affects the Black youth. We spoke with the guest earlier a little bit about it, and what's going on in education today.
And she, in our discussion, our previous guest mentioned about relationships and parents getting involved with their kids. And I think relationships, I agree with that. I think relationships is very important. Taking the time, what you say, quality time, to teach, to have with your kids.
Right.
Period.
Right.
Just the sheer, quality time you can
Right.
spend with them. And so that's one of the things that could help with education and readiness.
Right.
To encourage the kids to participate more.
Right. Well, education we know is a very controversial topic. Some people want to blame the parents, some want to blame the teachers, some want to blame the system.
I want to blame the parents, but
we all have our
that's
different
me.
perspectives, and it's a little bit of everything, right?
Right, it is.
We're going to have to pick this discussion up on another show. This
Yeah,
is,
we will.
very informative, and we can,
Yes.
I think,
Right.
really flesh some things out.
Yeah, at Uplifting Communities, we love to talk about things that are affecting our community. And we hope that we've said something today, or at least the topic has sparked something in you to begin having discussions with others around you in your community.
Right.
Uplifting Communities, the purpose of this program is to give voice to people in the community to share what they are doing to uplift communities. And we hope that you take the opportunity to visit our Facebook page. We're also on Instagram, and just let us know what you think about our show. I would also like to say a big thank you to the crew who helped out with us today. And we always look forward to hearing from any of you out there about what you thought about our program. When you get a chance, consider being a friend of Access Sacramento. We are part of a 501c3 nonprofit organization, and your donations are tax deductible. Give whatever you can. Thanks for watching Uplifting Communities, and we hope that you tune in the next time. With that, my name is T.D. Trice.
I'm Terry A. O'Neill.
And I'm Johnny O'Brien.
Thank you for watching our program. We'll see you next time.
Uplifting community. Yeah. People come on, yeah. Uplifting community. So we can get it right. Uplifting. Waiting on you. Uplifting.